It's Audra. Welcome to another video. So today's topic is, why do you always think about food? I get this question all the time, basically from girls who email me or they write on Instagram and they're like, what in the world? Like, I just think of food all the time. Like, I literally go to sleep daydreaming about breakfast. I wake up and I can't wait to eat breakfast, and while I'm eating breakfast I'm thinking about lunch. And then when lunch is over, I can't wait till my next snack in 2 hours, and then I'm ready for dinner, and then I just keep thinking about dessert. And even a part of that, like, I think about cheat meals, and I think about what I'm going to eat next week at this party that I'm going to, and what am I going to eat on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and like all that kind of stuff. Like, basically all you're doing is you're thinking about food 24/7. And I posted a little bit about this on Instagram the other day, but I just wanted to go in a little bit more in depth of this on why this is happening. Basically, hungry people think about food, okay? That's how it happens. If you are ever hungry, let's just think back to when you were like a little kid, okay? Think back to when you're like 8 years old and you're playing with your friends and you're doing your thing, and you know, you start thinking about food. Why did you start thinking about food? It was because you were hungry, right? Like, you were out playing, you were watching a movie, or you were over at their house or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're just like, hey, you know what, I'm kind of starting to get hungry, I think I want to eat. So you ate the food, and then what did you do? Did you sit there and think about food any longer? Were you just like sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like, I can't wait for dinner, and I'm already planning what I'm going to eat for breakfast, and I'm going to go do this and this and this? No, you didn't do that. You ate the food, you got satisfied, and then you moved on with your life, and you guys went back to playing, you went back to the movie, you went back to whatever you were doing. There was no type of like obsession with food. There wasn't like, all I want to do is eat, all I want to do is think about what I'm going to eat and how I'm going to eat and where I'm going to eat and when I'm going to eat. Like, it was just, you only ate when you were hungry, okay? So now what has happened? Why has that changed? Because obviously, if all you're doing right now is thinking about food, obviously something has changed, right? Well, if I had to bet, like literally if I had to put money on this, the reason why this has changed and when it has changed is when you started restricting. Maybe you started exercising more, or maybe you went on a healthy diet, or maybe you started cutting some foods out, or maybe you, you know, anything like that. Anything that has to do with calories in versus calories out, meaning that you started taking in less calories and you were expending more. Maybe you were expending them through purging. Maybe you deal with bulimia or throwing up. Maybe you deal with taking laxatives or diuretics or diet pills or anything like that at all. That's when it started. Now, it might not have started right away, okay? It might have taken a few days or a few months or a few weeks or whatever, but eventually your body started saying, hey, like, I'm more interested in food now. Like, I'm more interested in thinking about what's for breakfast tomorrow, or thinking about what I'm going to eat this weekend when I go get pizza, or thinking about what I'm going to have at that party in 3 weeks from now, or thinking about Christmas and it's not even Thanksgiving yet. You know, like, that's what happened. Like, you started to restrict in one way or another. You didn't have enough calories coming in, so all of a sudden you start thinking of food. Why does this happen? It's a biological reason why this is happening. Basically, your body is sensing that you are hungry, that you are starting to get into some type of starving type of mode. Now, in your mind, you're thinking, I'm not starving, I'm eating plenty of food, like I'm eating 1,000 calories a day, or 1,500, or even 2,000, or maybe even 3,000 calories a day, but all I do is think about food. Well, again, there's a lot that goes into this, but basically, it's one point or another, you stopped eating enough, or you stopped conserving enough calories. A lot of this has to do with conserving the calories, conserving the energy, so that all of those calories and all of that energy can go to letting your brain know, hey, I'm being fed, okay? Because it's like the whole deserted island scenario that I talk about all the time, okay? If Susie is stuck on a deserted island for a day and she misses breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when she gets rescued that night, she's going to want to go eat because she's been thinking about food. So let's imagine that Susie has been on that island for a week, okay? Granted, she might have some food. There might be some coconuts and bananas lying around or something, but it's not enough. Like, it's not enough to what she was used to eating. And then all of a sudden, she starts finding herself wanting more food. Why? It's because her body senses that she's in some type of survival mode. She's not getting enough calories, and now she's expending more calories because she's running around the jungle trying to build a house and trying to run away from bears and stuff. And so now she's like exercising more, which is really what it is, and she's expending more calories. So there's a huge deficit there, and it's a very, very drastic deficit. This is why I always say things have to be taken slow when it comes to weight loss or diets or whatever. So there was this drastic deficit, and now her body like clicks, her brain clicks, and it says, oh, you know what, like we're kind of like in this weirdly weird, funky starvation type of thing, and we don't want to starve, so I'm just going to turn on the food sign. And basically that's what it's going to be for you now. You are going to be searching out food all the time. So how does this look like in the modern day? How does this look like if you're not on a deserted island? Well, basically imagine that you are Susie and you're voluntarily putting yourself on this deserted island every single day. Okay, so basically what you're doing is you're saying, you know what, like I'm gonna keep myself from eating this food, whereas in Susie's case she didn't really have a choice, like she just didn't have enough food. And so you are consciously keeping yourself from eating this food, or you're throwing the food up, or you're exercising the calories off, or whatever you're doing, a combination of all of those. And in addition to that, your body is clicking on and saying, hey, you need more calories, like go search out food. So here's the really interesting thing about this in today's world. Yes, you are searching out food, but how are you searching out food? Are you going and eating that food? Probably not. And why are you not eating that food? Because all you hear all day long from media and society and magazines and the news and everything is self-control, discipline. You cannot eat this many calories. You cannot, if you eat too much, you're going to get fat. If you aren't, working out enough, then you're going to gain weight, blah, 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 blah. So there's like in the back of like your mind and your subconscious even, you're sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, like I've got to have self-control. But you're still searching out that food, right? But you're not eating the food. So it just exacerbates the problem. So your way of searching out food is you sit there on Instagram all day long just scrolling through food pictures. You go to all the major food accounts and you're just sitting there looking at just like ice cream and cookies and desserts and pizza and pasta and like all this super, super, super high calorie food. You're not scrolling through looking at pictures of broccoli or of cabbage or of super low calorie foods, are you? No, you're probably not. You're looking at super calorie dense foods. Not to mention maybe you're watching cooking shows, maybe you're reading cookbooks, maybe you just constantly read about foods and diets and that type of thing. Maybe you cook, like maybe that's your thing. You can't eat the food, you won't let yourself eat the food, but you go and you just bake like 1,000 cupcakes and then you feed them to your family and you're just like, okay, like I can't eat it, but you guys can eat it. I have to have willpower, but it's like your way of being around food without actually eating it. Another thing that a lot of people do is chewing and spitting. So maybe you will go and eat some food, but then you chew it up and you spit it out. And you're just like, okay, great. Like I got to taste it, but it didn't get inside of me. Or maybe it's purging. Maybe you go and throw it up. Maybe it's like exercise purging, so you eat it but then you go and run it all off, or you go and take laxatives to get it out, like whatever. Like you're constantly searching out this food, like you need it, you want it, specifically high calorie foods, but you won't let yourself have it. And that's where the big problem comes in, is that you need it, like you have to have it. That's why you're searching out the food, because your body's saying, dude, like you're starving, hello. That's why I'm making you think about food all the time. That's why when you go to bed on an empty stomach and you can't sleep, and sometimes you even get up in the middle of the night to go eat, like that's a survival type of starvation thing. Like it's not normal. Think about normal people. Think about the most normal eater you know in your life. Maybe they're a little overweight, maybe they're not, whatever, but they're normal. They don't let food affect them in any way. They are not constantly talking about food, looking at food, thinking about food, referencing food, talking about diets, talking about this. They're just like living their life, When they want to talk about food is only when they're hungry. So it's only around dinner time when they're like, man, I haven't eaten in like 6 hours, I'm so hungry, let's go eat. But it's not all day long, 24/7 all the time. It's just they only talk about it or think about it when they actually get hungry. So in your case, when all you do is think about that and all you do is talk about that, why? Because you're always hungry. There you go. So, my biggest tip with this is you have to start feeding yourself. It's not that hard. You have to start eating. One person left a comment saying, what if I eat thousands and thousands of calories and I'm still thinking of food? Well, that's a little bit different because it depends on what you're eating. This is why I'm very, very big on eating a good, balanced approach to whatever you're eating. I tend to be more in the camp of eating a good balance of having some fats and some protein and carbs. I don't personally think, as from a satiation standpoint, from like your brain clicking on and saying, okay, like I'm full, that it's good to just focus on one of those macronutrients. That's in my experience, that's my opinion, that's how it works for me, and that's how it works for the other people that I've worked with. You can try whatever you want to try, but if you're sitting there just eating, 3,000 calories worth of just fat and you're wondering why you're still thinking of food, obviously it's because your body is not getting what it needs, and it's like, can you please give me some carbs and protein? Or if all you're eating is protein, you need to eat some more carbs and fat. If you're not satiated and all you do is think of food. Or if you're eating 3,000 calories worth of carbs and you're not eating enough fat or protein, you're wondering like, why can I never get full? Why do all I do is think about food? Try adding in some fat and protein and see how that goes. You need every single macronutrient. And each person needs it in different amounts. Some people need more, some people need less. But if you're dealing with this right now, like it's worth looking into and considering a change, obviously. So I know this video is kind of all over the place, but I just wanted to cover that because I think a lot of people, like, you just think it's normal, like for years, like that's all you've done is think about food and talk about food and look at food, but that's not normal. That is a sign of a much deeper issue, and the sign is you're hungry. Your body is not getting the food that it needs. This is like, for example, I have a lot of friends who are into bikini competitions, and this happens to them as they diet down and get ready for a show. All they do is think about food, like all the time. Their body fat is extremely low, their calorie intake is extremely low. Most of the time their carbs are very low, and they're just like on edge. And as soon as that show is over, they go and eat a ton of food because that's all their body has been thinking about is food. So at the end of the day, your appetite is there for a reason. It's just like any other natural bodily function. You don't need to be trying to suppress your appetite, especially in drastic, extreme ways. It's one thing to want to lose weight in a healthy way, but if you're doing this and it's to the extreme and now you're having all these issues with food and your weight and your metabolism, that's the problem. So my biggest tip is you need to eat and keep it a balanced diet. Don't cut out any foods. If you feel restricted, you need to start eating the foods that you've been restricting. You can eat them in small amounts every single day. That will help. But all in all, if you're hungry, you need to eat. Just like if you had to go to use the bathroom, go use the bathroom. If you were really tired and needed to sleep, you need to lay down and go to sleep. You don't need to keep suppressing these things that are natural parts of like your bodily function. You need to eat food. You need to go to the bathroom. You need to go to sleep. Like you need to breathe. So I hope that's helpful. But I just wanted to clear that up. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And yeah, I think that's it. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.